in a second. All right. Hello and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about why we shouldn't always be leaning into our fear in order to grow and to change and evolve and become our higher selves and all of these things that we want to do. And the reason, again, that I want to talk about this is because in the self-help, self-love, spirituality, personal growth world, this idea that we should be constantly like leaning into our fear, constantly doing things that scare us, constantly striving to become higher, better, more quantum leaping versions of ourselves via doing things that make us feel genuinely uncomfortable is a very popular idea. And I think we've all seen that little graphic of the this is your comfort zone and this is where the growth happens or where the magic happens or where all the things that you want exist. And so again, right? Like this idea that we need to be pushing ourselves beyond our current limits in order to be living the lives that we're supposed to be living is like a constant theme in the self-help, self-love, personal growth world. And I want to talk about this today in a couple of different ways because we kind of have in the spirituality, self-help, personal growth world a fear of fear. And I think that that's like the best way to put it. We have like this phobia of the idea that if we're scared or if we're unsure or if we're feeling insecure in any way, that this means that there's something wrong with us or it means that we should be pushing. And the second thing is that this idea that we're told that we should be constantly pushing through our fear, we should be constantly doing things that scare us, we should be pursuing these things that feel really scary in our bodies, is being used as a manipulation tactic for people to just charge people crazy amounts of money to do things that are not going to help them. And it's also something that we are doing to ourselves where we're not paying attention to the fact that we have nervous systems that are finite and that are not able to just handle any challenge because we mentally tell ourselves that we can. So there's lots of reasons why this teaching that we should always be leaning into our fear is not correct. There are lots of times and places where we absolutely should not be leaning into our fear. And I think that I want to offer a different perspective of fear itself so that we can learn to work with it as a tool and something that's helpful for us in our lives versus something we're constantly either controlled by, because that is part of it. Like a lot of us are trapped in our lives and in our patterns and in our ways of being because we are afraid. We are afraid to do something different. We're afraid to step out of our comfort zone. And it is true that pushing through that fear and getting beyond it and doing things that are uncomfortable really will help us. And there, like I say, there are times and places where our fear is incredibly wise and it's stopping us from doing something that would not be beneficial. And we want to start to learn the difference between fear we should listen to and fear we shouldn't. Okay? And now, before I get into that, I'm just going to say that I also have a mystery school. So, like, if you really like this content, if you really enjoy the things that I talk about and you find them helpful and you want something that's a little bit more like structured and like this journey of learning to listen to our emotions and listen to our inner guidance and learning how to problem solve and all of these tools that I teach, these learning tools of learning self-love, compassion, curiosity, all of that stuff. If you want something that's just more structured and more organized, I highly recommend that you check out my school. We have, like I say, I have 4 programs in there, all laid out for you. It's video and written work. There's a private Facebook group where we meet every month and where you can ask questions and all that stuff. And in the theme of this fear talk, I'm happy to offer a refund to anybody who doesn't feel like it serves them. I've never once withheld a refund if I don't even need a reason from you. If it doesn't feel right for you, you can leave anytime. You're not locked into anything. And I just wanted to put that out there. So that's that. Okay. So let's start at the very beginning and let's ask ourselves why we have fear in the first place. Why do we have fear? What is the point of our instinct to pull away from things and to not pursue things and to not go after things? What we, I believe, are failing to understand in the spirituality, self-help, personal growth world is the fact that fear is a healthy thing. Fear is part of the reason humans have survived and thrived as long as we have. Without the fear response, humanity would probably have extincted itself by now. There is nothing wrong with anyone who experiences the fear of the unknown, the fear of change, the fear of different, the fear of doing something we've never done before, the fear of death, the fear of suffering, the fear of getting hurt. All of these things, these fears, we have to understand. We have them because evolutionarily, the people who had that fear were the ones that survived. Okay? Fear has been passed down to us from our ancestors who survived. Fear is what holds us back from doing things that would legitimately cause us to suffer and or die. So let's get real honest right off the bat about all the spiritual teachings that tell us that we should transcend all fear, or that we should transcend all, like, fear of death, fear of suffering, fear of illness, fear of loss, fear of losing the things that we are attached to, fear of not getting the things that we really want. All the spiritual teachers and teachings out there that are telling us that it is that fear that is holding us back from happiness. It's that fear that's holding us back from enlightenment. That it's that fear that's holding us back from peace at all times. Are lying. That's not true. Okay? Now, again, of course, when fear is the thing that rules our life, when fear takes over in every situation where there could be, we need to go out and do something new. When fear completely runs the show and we are only willing to do that which we've always done, and that which we've always done hasn't served us or isn't serving us anymore, of course, it gets to the point where that fear is then starting to feed a suffering cycle, right? Where we do need to step outside of our comfort zone, we do need to do something different. And the answer to our pain in this particular situation is to push past our fear and do something different. That does exist. But generally speaking, we would not, as a humanity, actually want to ever get to a place where we don't have fear. Okay? It's like the idea that people think it would be really great if we didn't feel pain. If we didn't have a pain awareness, right? But the reality is, the people on this planet who don't feel pain, who don't perceive pain, thanks, Sam. A very good place to start. Let's start with why we have fear. Yeah. Who don't perceive pain, oftentimes die early, and because of accidents and because of things that they did that could have been prevented, had they had the pain mechanism. Without pain, we live a life of maybe joyful ignorance to the things that are harmful and to the things that are degrading our bodies to the point of not being able to survive anymore. But it's not actually helpful in terms of like a long, healthy, fully expressed life, because the chances are we're going to die an early death from an injury that could have been prevented, or from an injury that we didn't notice, or something like this, because we don't have the ability to feel pain. Okay? So when we're getting into this place of saying, like, I wish we didn't have fear. I wish I could live a life where I don't fear death, and I don't fear suffering, and I don't fear injury, and I don't fear loss, and I don't fear all these things. That would not actually be a good life. To live a life without fear means that you would take unnecessary and unreasonable risk, and you would probably end up hurting yourself and hurting others. We know this about like psychopaths, like people who have literal no fear, like they don't care what people think about them, they don't care what happens to them. What they end up doing is causing mass destruction to themselves and to others. They are not living fulfilled spiritual lives. Okay, like let's really try to nail this in, right? The spiritual teachers who are telling us that those who have transcended fear are enlightened. We have to look at the people who actually have transcended fear. And I don't think any of us would consider sociopaths as enlightened. And again, this is not to say that they are bad or wrong or horrible people. We don't know why sociopaths are sociopaths. Like in a lot of ways, it could be just brain chemistry, there's injury, there's trauma, there's a lot of reasons why these people may be the way that they are, and I'm not trying to vilify them. All I'm trying to say is that I don't think that we would consider getting to a place where all of humanity has no fear, and that's what it actually looks like when we have no fear. We cause mass destruction to ourselves and others, and we would say, yeah, we want that, right? I don't think that anyone with a reasonable sense of empathy or a reasonable sense of wanting, not chaos on the planet would ever look at that and say, okay, that's healthy. That's what we should be striving for. Okay, but again, when we take it out of context and we spiritualize it and we make up a definition of what it would look like if we didn't have fear, which is what most spiritual people are doing, right? When most people who are spiritual say we all need to transcend fear, they're thinking, they're projecting, they're making up in their head that a humanity without fear is just a loving, gracious, empathic, all for one thing. And that is not reality. That is not what a group of humans who have no fear are actually like. Like I said, a group of humans who have no fears would be a group of psychopaths and sociopaths that risk their own lives and risk the life of everyone around them for a thrill. Because that's what is actually the reality. So what then do we actually want? What is an actual reasonable expectation that we can have around our relationship with fear? Okay, so number one, again, we want to understand that fear, just like every other emotional state, is a messenger. It is not good, it is not bad, it is not right, it is not wrong, it is not the reason we suffer, or a thing that if we transcend it, we would never suffer again. Our relationship to fear definitely can cause suffering, definitely can cause pain. Our relationship to fear and how we relate to it and how we understand it and how we move through it and with it can absolutely cause a lot of pain. But it is not the fear itself that causes pain. Okay? Fear, like I said, just like every other emotion, just like joy, just like sadness, just like anger, is simply a messenger and a part of humanity. It's a part of being alive, having a physical experience, having a body. It's just a part of being alive. So if we can even just as a society start to decrease our fear of fear and our resistance to fear and our labeling of fear as wrong and bad and something we need to get rid of and something we need to transcend in order to live our highest life, just in that, if we can make room for the fact that we as humans who have evolutionary traits that were passed down to us from all of our ancestors who survived are going to experience fear pretty much every time we step outside of what is familiar to us. And if we can understand that as not a bad thing, not a wrong thing, not something that has to cause suffering, we can just recognize it as part of the experience, I think it will decrease the intensity at which a lot of us feel it a lot. Fear is not good or bad. Fear is not the reason you suffer. Fear is not something to get rid of or transcend. Fear is an emotion, like every other emotion, that is there because it helped us survive. That is why it is there. Okay? So if we can just approach our fear from that standpoint, it's not good or bad, right or wrong, it's not the reason you're suffering. It's a messenger. That's all it is. We can start to look at it a little bit more clearly. Okay? And then the second step is always to do that investigation, that internal investigation of the fear that we're facing in this context. Because here's the next thing that the spirituality, self-help, personal growth world loves to do that makes everything confusing, is that we oversimplify and say, all fear is this, right? All fear is something that holds you back from something you should be doing. That is the only reason fear could ever exist. And by trying to boil the experience of fear down, to say that every experience of fear means one thing, because we're trying to make it simple, we're trying to give ourselves a blanket. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to process it. I don't have to do any work. I just have my one answer. So every time I feel fear, this is the response. In doing that, right, trying to simplify it, we actually make life way more complicated because that is not reality. There are absolutely going to be times and places in your life where the fear that is arising in you is a life-saving fear. It's telling you not to go in a direction that you should not go down. If you want to stay alive, if you want to protect your body, if you want to protect yourself from unnecessary harm, fear is there to let you know that what you're about to do is actually not good for you. There are absolutely times where you have fear about stepping into your next step because that next step is not a good step for you. Okay? There are times and places where we are at in our nervous systems, in our bodies, in our minds, where taking the next step, even if that next step would be considered helpful, where we are not ready to take that step. Where maybe in a couple of months or in a couple of years, when we're more regulated or when we're more settled or when we're more secure, that step is going to be objectively good for us. But we have fear about doing it right now, even though we technically could do it. That fear is saying, your nervous system is not ready for this. Your physical body is not ready for this. Where you are mentally and emotionally and even just physically, you're not ready for this step. The step isn't necessarily wrong. Maybe it's a step you'll take in the future. But right now, it doesn't feel good because it's not the right step right now. And these two situations are real and they exist. There are plenty of times and places where we just shouldn't go forward, where the thing that's being presented to us is not the next right thing for us, where our fear comes up to save us and protect us from something that was going to be harmful. Okay? And even, like I say, even the fact that we fear death, it can cause a lot of suffering. When we live our lives focused on our fear of death, when we have been traumatized or when we've been hurt or when we're in a situation where we can't find peace because we are constantly afraid of death, of course that's causing suffering. But for the vast majority of us, a healthy fear of death, again, is something that keeps us alive. We were passed down the fear of death because the humans who came before us, who had the fear of death, survived. Those who did not have the fear of death didn't survive long enough to pass their genes on to us. I'm going to say that again. Our ancestors who had the fear of death survived long enough to pass that fear on to us. Our ancestors who did not have a fear of death, generally speaking, did not survive long enough to pass their genes on to us. So again, to say that the fear of death is what causes all suffering is counterintuitive. Because without the fear of death, we would probably all be dead. We would do reckless things. And yeah, we'd do them without fear. But our lives would be so much shorter and so much less rich because we wouldn't be here long enough to have a rich experience. You see what I'm saying? We have to be measured in our judgment. We have to be measured in our judgment. And in the spirituality, self-help, personal growth world, there is a lot of oversimplifying everything to try to make it all one thing when it isn't. And again, right, like the fear of sickness, the fear of suffering, the fear of loss. We always have to go back to, why do we have these things? They are not a punishment from the universe. They are not something that we should be working on trying to transcend. They are not the reason we suffer. They are, in fact, part of the reason we are still here as a humanity. The fact that we are self-aware enough to know we can suffer and to then be able to understand the patterns that causes that suffering is the reason we live in a world right now where we have so much technology, so much infrastructure, so much understanding and ways of life that set us up to be safe from things that used to just kill everyone. Because of our fear of suffering, because of our fear of sickness, because of our fear of death, essentially, we have sanitation, we have medicine, we have infrastructure, we have systems in place that allow us to live lives where we are exposed to so few situations that used to be the reason people just died. Our fear of suffering, our fear of loss, our fear of death, is what has essentially been at least a part of what has inspired every great invention that's ever happened. Every great thing that we've created that makes our society so safe in terms of like cultural and in terms of history have come because we have an awareness of suffering and future suffering and illness and future death. And in trying to prevent those things, we've created a lot of situations and a lot of things for ourselves that make life awesome. So again, to think that we'd want to get rid of that fear, to think that we'd want to live in a world where we have no fear, we're not understanding what fear has done for us. We're not understanding the usefulness of fear. We're not understanding how much fear inspires good things. Okay? Now, the last thing I want to say about this, in terms of where fear is good, is in the self-help, spirituality, personal growth, self-love world. There are a lot of people out there. Okay? A lot of people out there who are marketing themselves as growth coaches, as I will teach you how to manifest abundance coaches, I will train you to live a spiritual life coaches, whatever it is. They're hitting on our pain points of, I'll help you heal your body, I'll help you fix and manifest into perfect relationships, I'll help you manifest abundance, I'll help you, whatever it is, right? Because we all have one of those 4 pain points: money, sex, body, mental, emotional. And then for every one of those, we have a million teachers out there who are promising that their technique or their sessions or their course or their retreat or their whatever it is going to fix it for you. It's going to help you transcend all of the pain and the fear and the suffering that you're having right now. And they charge really high prices for these coaching experiences. And the way that they market it is that if you feel fear, if you feel resistance, if you feel like you don't want to do this and the price is the thing that's holding you back, that means that you need to lean into that fear. Because they use the whole idea that this is your comfort zone and this is where growth happens as essentially a weapon to convince people to buy things that they don't need, that aren't going to work, that profit only the person selling. And they're weaponizing this idea that if you have fear, that's a sign that you should do it more, as a reason to get people to buy into these things that usually in the long term, at best, do nothing for them, and at worst, traumatize them more. This is a manipulation tactic. If anyone is telling you that your fear of investing in a course, or even if it's not the money that's scaring you, but like if you just have a sense that this thing isn't actually going to heal me, this doesn't, when I tune into my body and I think about registering for this course or registering for this retreat or registering for this healing thing or signing up for whatever it is, and I feel scared and I really feel like just, it doesn't feel good. Like it's not even just that like, ooh, this is exciting scared, but it feels like this feels wrong. I would highly encourage you to heed that warning. To not listen to the people who are going to tell you that you're letting your fear control your life and you're never going to transcend and get the life you want because you're leaning into your fear too much. And the people who are telling you that the answer is always to go forward and lean into that fear and do the thing that scares the shit out of you, we have to understand that most of the time, growth does not happen on the other side of feeling so scared you could shit your pants. Okay? This is something I really want to make clear today. Growth happens when we are a little bit uncomfortable. Okay. First thing to understand. There are going to be times and places in life where sometimes we are confronted with a situation where the only choice we have is to do something very, very scary. Right? It's not that we have the choice to opt into a coaching program or we're considering doing a healing retreat or something. It's not like that. It's where life is saying, okay, you have two options. Get a divorce or continue living on in this situation that feels terrible for you. Or you're laid off from a job and you have to figure something out right now. Or you get a diagnosis and life is just at this moment scary. Okay? That is going to happen. Life is not always gentle, and we can't always moderate and do growth steps that feel comfortable. That's not always available. So I do want to put in here, right, that when we are in situations where life is giving us no option but to do something that's just like very, very, very scary, the answer in those times is to, as much as we can, do what we can, right? To learn, to face the fear, to go forward anyways, as much as we can, while having as much compassion for ourselves as we can. That is the thing that we can control. When life is scaring the shit out of us and there's nothing else we can do, we can't make it slow down, we can't make it stop, we can't make it safer. The one piece of control we have is how we're going to relate to ourselves. So rather than being mad at ourselves that we're scared or abandoning ourselves and going into like hopelessness, which I think is going to happen at some point for all of us, we want to build that muscle of being on our own side, because that's the best thing that we can do for our nervous systems. Our nervous systems are simply programmed that love equals safety. So even when we're in a situation where it doesn't feel safe and it's very scary, we're probably not going to feel safe in the big sense. But we can be a safe place for ourselves, which does decrease the intensity a little bit, by being compassionate with ourselves. By admitting that this is hard and this is scary and this sucks, but I'm going to be here for me. I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to take my next steps. And then really working our nervous system supporting tools while we go through it. Because this is the thing. It's this self-love work and these tools of regulating our nervous system and all that stuff. We practice them on a daily basis so that when we need them, right? When life gets crazy and life gets hard and life gets scary and life gets challenging, we, again, aren't always going to have the tools or the capacity to make life great right now, to make it not scary, to make it not painful. We aren't always going to have those tools, but we then will have the tools to help ourselves recover a little bit as we go through it. We will have the tools to be on our own side instead of blaming ourselves and shaming ourselves and thinking that if we had done something different or if we had been different people or all that, we could have prevented this pain, or this pain is our fault, or going into that hopelessness of I'm never going to get out of this and I can never figure it out and I don't know what to do. When we can develop that inner sense of like, okay, this is really hard and this is really scary. And right, I'm scared shitless right now and I have no idea what I'm going to do and I don't know if it's going to work out and I'm in pain and it's confusing. We can say, okay, that is all real. I'm here for me and I'm going to do what I can and I'm going to be on my own side and I'm going to regulate as much as I can. I'm not going to expect myself to be regulated. I'm going to regulate as much as I can to help myself get through it, right? And then I'm going to have my tools on the other side for when life slows down a little bit, because it always does, to recover. Okay, so that when life is giving us no other option but to jump off the cliff, that's where our self-love tools come in to support us through that. That's why we do this work. Because shit is always going to happen. Shit is always going to hit the fan. And rather than getting to a place where we're trying to control our lives so that we're trying to prevent shit hitting the fan all the time, because again, we don't always have that control. We do the best we can to create stability and solidity and peace as much as we can. And then where we can't, we want to learn to support ourselves through it. So that's another big thing. We're not always going to be able to avoid fear. We're not always going to be able to avoid scary situations. We're not always going to be able to manage the scary situations to a point that we can handle it. That's not always going to be available. Life isn't always that gentle. But what we can do is, again, develop these tools and even within that, therapy, getting support from other people, learning how to ask for help, learning how to process and vent our emotions so that we can then keep going forward. All of these tools are tools we use to help us manage and navigate life and find the joy where the joy exists. And then sometimes, right, we're going to find that where life pushed us, it did make it better. That we got to that crisis point and it shook us out of our stagnancy to the point of forcing us to do something we probably never would have done on our own that does ultimately end up making our lives better. It causes chaos in the short term, but in the long term brings peace, right? And that again, so now bringing that back, is that again, those situations that we can't control and that we can control, where moving forward does require that we face our fear and do it anyways. Again, our self-love tools are the tools that help us navigate that. When we can make ourselves internally safe with ourselves. Again, not getting to a place where we're telling ourselves, I don't have fear anymore, or I don't have pain anymore, or I'm not suffering, or everything is fine, and I totally know that I can do this, and I totally believe in myself, and even though I don't see the way ahead, I know I can figure it out. We don't have to get to that place, right? We don't have to get to a place where we fully believe in ourselves and we have no fear and anything like that. All we want to be able to do is learn how to hold ourselves in love and hold ourselves in compassion. So not blaming ourselves, not shaming ourselves, and not allowing ourselves to go into hopelessness longer than we need to. Because there are going to be times and places where we feel hopeless. And that's, again, normal. That's a normal part of our human life. There are going to be days where things are just so hard or so painful or so scary that we're just like, I'm never going to get out of this. I'm never going to feel good again. This is the worst. And again, if we can love ourselves through those periods of time, we will find that often when we've practiced this self-compassion, we've practiced this self-love, we've practiced our regulation tools, that on the other side of doing those practices, we feel a little bit more capable of doing the scary thing. And sometimes when we've made ourselves internally safe, or we've done our therapy and we've talked to somebody and we've co-regulated or whatever it is that works for us, we are going to find that that initial fear and that initial pushback and that initial no was the survival mechanism of anything different is bad coming up. And we worked through it, and now we see, okay, no, I can take this next step. I'm still scared. I still don't know. I still wish I didn't have to. But I can see and I can feel and I can process in my body that taking this step is probably in my best interest. Because it is absolutely true. And if anyone says that this isn't true, they're also denying reality. That most of the time, getting out of a shitty situation, moving forward into something that's better than what we have right now, creating a life that does work for us when the one that we have right now doesn't, is usually going to require that, number one, we take scary steps. And number two, we take steps that don't necessarily lead to the perfect answer or to peace right away. A lot of the time, the transition out of the shitty thing that we're in towards the thing we want is more shitty things. Hard things, disruptive things, having tough conversations, breaking up with people, pushing ourselves to be more vulnerable and more intimate than we've ever been. Pushing ourselves to quit a job, pushing ourselves to start a job, starting before we're ready, doing things that are absolutely outside of our comfort zone. It is required. It is a part of this life. Growth almost always happens because we challenged ourselves to do something we were not comfortable doing. So when we have control over that, right? When we get to choose if we're taking the step or not, what do we want to do? Number one, we want to regulate as much as we can. We practice our self-love tools, our therapy, connecting with others, whatever helps us regulate, whatever helps us process the fear emotion, right? We let the fear be there. We bring it to the surface. We talk about it. We feel it. We shake. We do all the stuff. And we get on our own side. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not broken. This fear is not my enemy. It's just a messenger. It's trying to protect me. That's all it's doing. Fear is there to try to protect us. That is why it's there. That's always why it's there. It's never bad. It's not wrong. It's not there to destroy your life or anything. It's just trying to protect you. And we regulate as much as we can. Right? We regulate and we process. We make room for the fear. And then we don't let ourselves wallow in it for too long. Because that just feeling the fear and 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 waiting for it to go away before we're going to take a step means we'll be waiting forever. And then that's when we can start to get into loops where the fear just continues to reinforce itself as being a reason we shouldn't go forward. And then we don't go forward because we feel fear. And then the longer we don't go forward, the greater the fear becomes. That's the cycle we don't want to get into. So we have to, again, be like intelligent in this. That we process our fear. We make room for it. Yeah? And then we take the little step we feel capable of taking. Martha Beck calls it turtle steps. And I completely agree with her. Most of the time, again, we're not going to change and fix and save our own lives by doing these giant, like, change my whole life, find the solution to all my pain and all my problems, how to get myself out of my situation right here, right now. That's not how it's going to go. And a lot of the time, when we are allowing fear to drive the ship, it gets us into this black and white thinking of I either stay how I am to stay safe, because this is predictable and familiar. Okay, remember that. Even when what we're in is incredibly painful, when it's so painful and we hate every minute of it and it feels like a prison, we have to understand that a lot of the time to our nervous systems, we don't want to do anything else. Because something else to our nervous system is just unfamiliar and is probably going to kill us. Like, we have to be self-aware enough to know that sometimes our fear of change is causing us to stay in a situation that's objectively horrible because our nervous system is perceiving that change equals threat. And at least this horrible thing that I'm in right now, I know how to predict this. I know what to do in this. I know what's going to happen here, and I'd rather stay here than take a step into the unknown where I either don't know what's going to happen or I already have an idea of the only alternative, and that's worse. I know a lot of people who are stuck in suffering, like they don't like how their life is right now, but they have this idea that to change in any way is meaning that the inevitable outcome is this other life that they hate. A job they hate, a relationship they hate. So why would I bother trying to empower myself to do something now? Why would I bother empowering myself to heal and to get better and to change if all that's going to lead me to is this inevitable, horrible future that I hate? Right? So when we can start to recognize that that's part of our survival instinct, even though what I'm in right now might be horrible, my body is still going to have fear about doing anything different because something different could be worse and I don't know how to predict it. So therefore, I would rather stay in the suffering that I know than go into suffering that I don't know. That's what the body is saying. And we have to be able to love ourselves enough that we say, okay, I don't actually know the path forward and what it's going to look like. And instead of allowing that to be something that scares us into not taking a step, we slowly build our self-esteem by taking little steps forward, understanding it's never going to be the whole thing. It's never going to fix it. The little step forward might even make things worse initially. Make things scarier, make things harder, disrupt stuff. But we take a little step and we see ourselves through it. This is the most important thing. People often ask me how we build self-esteem and how we build this self-love and self-trust. See yourself through the challenges. That's how we do it. It's not something we do in meditation. It's not something we do in our quiet time. It's not something we do in therapy. Generally speaking, those things can be helpful, but the big way we build our self-esteem, the big way we build our capacity to do hard things and to grow, and a part of the way that we heal our nervous systems, when our nervous systems are deeply trapped in that childhood perspective of I don't have control and life is hard and scary and I can't do it, is by taking little steps and seeing ourselves through it, not quitting, not giving up on ourselves, understanding we're not going to see the whole path. We're never going to have all the information. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to cause more chaos than we solve sometimes. And we do it anyways. Not because someone is forcing us, not because it would make us a good person, but because sometimes that is what life requires of us to move forward. And then again, we work with our nervous systems and what our nervous systems are actually capable of. We get honest about the little step we're able to take, and we take it. So understand that it's going to be a challenge. When we're deeply locked in fear and we're deeply locked in our cycles and our trauma is controlling us, get therapy always, caveat, right? Get help, get support. First things first. And then we use our self-love tools to help us regulate enough that we can be real and honest with ourselves that, again, moving forward is not going to be perfect. We are going to have to do hard things. We are going to have to do scary things. We're going to have to do things that we aren't going to think are going to work. We're going to have to take steps that are going to fail, because that is how we're going to learn. We have to see ourselves through what we didn't think we could do. That's how we build our muscles. That's how we build a life. And we have to have faith that, especially when we think these are my two options, suffer how I'm suffering now or create a life that I hate, we have to be open to the idea that there's another path out there for us that we will find on the path that is better. We have to have hope that better is possible. And we will keep looking for it until we find it. We kind of have to have that mindset. I am going to keep looking for the step forward until I find it. So that means when I have run out of all the ideas I had, and I've come to the end of what I knew to be, and I've tried all the things I've known to try, I settle into that unknown and I open up into curiosity versus shutting down and saying there's clearly no answer, I'm stuck. That is the secret key to growth. Regulate as much as we can. Figure out the turtle step we can take. Take the step. See ourselves through that step. And then keep looking for your next step. Don't let yourself give up. As hard as that is, and as scary as that is often the thing that takes us out of our pain and into pleasure, is that we don't give up when it gets hard and when it gets scary. So again, how do we determine the difference between the fear that's telling us don't do it and the fear that's telling us to do it? Is there a turtle step? That's the main question. When you regulate yourself and you come into as much regulation as you can give yourself, and you show yourself where you are safe, you show yourself where things are okay, you get to that point of like, okay, I can take a step. Is there a turtle step? Or are you being forced to take a giant leap by someone or something that's not just life? And if there is no turtle step, and you're being forced to take a giant leap by a person, I would say don't do it. Number 2, assess where your nervous system is at. Is this scary, but I can get through it scary? Or is this, I literally am so petrified, I feel like I'm going to die if I do this? Because if it's scary, but I think I can do it, you should probably do it. If it's, I literally think I'm about to die if I do this, maybe don't do that right now. Come back to it again later. Do a little bit more regulating, a little bit more self-love, therapy. Because again, we just don't want to push our nervous systems to the point where we're just re-traumatizing ourselves. And that's the fine line we have to walk with this work. Because again, sometimes in life, the next step that we have to take is traumatizing. We have to leave the marriage, we have to quit the job, we have to move, we have to do the thing, and it fucking sucks. And we are going to have some trauma from it. But that's what's available. So again, when life is forcing those things on us, we use our self-love tools to help us get through them. When we're in a situation where we're really stuck and we're really scared and things really suck, and it's very much a mental thing, we get therapy, we get support, we do all the things. And then we do challenge ourselves to take the little turtle steps we can. We don't expect perfection. We understand that life is going to be a journey. It's going to be hard and it's going to be scary. And we learn to see ourselves through the hard, scary things, taking our turtle steps. Okay, so a huge difference between you have to jump off the cliff right now and that's what growth is. And I know I need to take some steps. I know something has to change. I can't keep doing the things that I'm doing. I can't keep staying stuck in my fear. I have to take a step. So what's the smallest step that I know I can take? And then I'm not going to let myself give up. It's going to be hard. I'm going to expect chaos. I'm going to expect confusion. I'm going to expect that it's not going to be comfortable. And I'm going to do it anyways, while I regulate myself. So I would say always we start with building these regulation tools so that we have those, so that when we feel the fear, we can process. Is this fear the fear of a no? Or is this fear a fear of a like, okay, it's uncomfortable, but I know I'm going to benefit from this? And a lot of the time, only you can tell when that is which. We get good at perceiving the patterns of what a no fear feels like to us and what a I can do this, it's just going to be uncomfortable fear feels like to us. We get good at figuring out which is which from practice. Practice feeling the fear, practice regulating, practice noticing the subtle differences between that fear of a no and that fear of a this is growth. And that just takes time. Observing ourselves over time, observing our fear over time, observing our patterns over time, regulating our nervous systems. So that's my complex breakdown of what fear actually means. It's different in every situation. And I hope I've given you tools to help you navigate all of the different situations. But again, ultimately, only you can decide for yourself what is best for you. Don't let some coach on the internet guilt trip you into thinking you're not going to become your higher self if you don't invest millions of dollars in their thing. If it really doesn't feel like a reasonable thing for you to do that, if it's an unreasonable risk, don't do it. Okay? We don't become our higher selves by constantly putting ourselves in a state of fear. Nor do we become our higher selves by trying to pretend or get to a place where we don't have fear. We work with fear. It is always going to be there. It's always going to try and protect you from change. Okay? That's going to be how it is for the rest of your life. So what are we going to do with it? We're going to learn to work with it. We're going to make friends with our fear. And we're going to learn to discern how to work through it based on the individual situation we're in. There's no blanket answer. It's what is the fear that you're in need right now. Okay? We don't want a world of psychopaths. Not to say that they're bad and wrong and horrible. It's just to say that would be a pretty destructive world. So fear is good. Can we work with it? All right? So that's that. I hope that was informative. I hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching. Come check out the Mystery School, and I'll see you when I see you.